You know, I've been reviewing guns since 2014 here on YouTube, and every gun that comes to my table, I try to consistently look at them as fair as possible. No matter if it's a high-end SCAR or a low-end budget gun, I always try to keep an open mind. And that also is the case for guns that I may not like in the beginning, and then I spend more time with them, end up loving, or the opposite effect. I end up liking a gun initially, do a 1,000 round review, and it ends up not being as good as I thought or unreliable. And there's a variety of factors in the 7 guns that I'm going to talk about today that I regret buying. Whether it's my inability to resonate with the gun and shoot it as well as I can other guns that are of similar size, maybe it's the cost, maybe they're just simply unreliable. I'll touch on each one of these things and why these 7 guns I do regret buying. So whatever your opinion is, because some of these guns y'all may absolutely love, leave those things down below. Let me know what you think about my list, and let me know some guns that you maybe regret buying after the video. If you like what I do, or if it helped you or entertained you, consider subscribing. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, I mentioned that some of these guns may not make some of y'all happy, and I know that a lot of people love this gun. So that's the one I'm going to start with. It's the FN509 Tactical. Now let me say, there's a lot of great things with this gun. It has a threaded barrel. It has the higher night sights that will allow you to co-witness. It actually comes with these little protective wings when you have the plate on there, and then when you take the plate off, those little wings, you can, remove those, of course. It has 17-round mags. It's got a really good feel in the hand, and it's full-time ambidextrous. I just don't like the trigger. I think they could have taken this gun to a whole new level, separated it from the old FNS series, and really done a much better job with this trigger, because it's the same hinge design. They just have not changed it, and it's a heavy pull. It's fairly predictable because you hit the wall instantly, and it's got a very defined concrete wall. It just kind of stacks up as you pull through, and it's just got a heavy feel to the trigger. I just think they could have done a much better job with this. And when I think about a gun like the HK VP9, which, by the way, this gun, I think MSRP is what, $1,100, $1,200? It's over $1,000. So it's not cheap. And so when I think about that VP9, even the tactical version that I re-reviewed a few months back, I can shoot that gun so much better. It has a better trigger. When I think about guns like the M&P that started with a hinge design, and over time they've improved upon that and then eventually got away from the hinge design altogether. You improve upon the things that need to be improved upon while still keeping the base gun and the things that are successful in your gun the same. And like I said, there's a lot of things I like about this gun, but that trigger specifically, I don't really like. And honestly, I just don't find that this gun does anything better than guns of similar sizing and similar pricing, and honestly, some guns that are even cheaper than this. Here's one I've picked on before, and I still don't like it, and I really do regret buying it. Now, some of you may say, well, why don't you sell these guns? Well, I do use them for videos like this, and like I said, sometimes I will re-review them down the line. This is one I've spent a lot of time with. Actually, all of these I've spent a good amount of time with. And the 938 to me is just not that good of a buy in today's market. You have guns like the 365, the Shield Plus, the Hellcat. I could go on and on and on that offer you way more capacity. This is a 6-round gun, by the way. Most of them, I think, come with only one magazine still, and they are expensive. Now, they're built really well. They're made by Sig. They have a decent set of sights on them, at least this version. This is the Spartan 2, and they have a variety of different 938s out there, all ranging from, I don't know, $600, $650 up to $900 and more. You have to have the manual safety because it's a 1911 style gun. It is a relatively small gun and a relatively light gun. So when it comes to concealed carry or just concealing this altogether, it's really not a hard gun to conceal, but I just don't find that it does anything better than some of the other modern polymer guns on the market. And like I said, the round count on this gun is limited and it's expensive for what you get. Now, I'm covering everything from budget guns to higher end guns like y'all have seen, and I'm going to go to more of the budget side. And let me just say, there are some good budget guns out there that you can buy. The Sky CPX2 is not one of them, in my opinion. I think I put 50 rounds through this gun initially, and the magazine spring, the magazine catch actually ended up falling out of the gun. And I know that there's probably people that don't know anything about these that go into a gun shop and they're like, man, I just need something on a budget. They see this, they see maybe all the variations and colors on them, and God forbid it's for their wife or something, and it's just like an instant gravitation towards that. It's cheap enough. It's got 10 rounds. It comes with 2 magazines. You may be thinking, man, this is a really good value. And unfortunately, and I'm sure y'all know people like this too, not everybody takes these guns out and shoots them, practices, and understands that these guns are kind of hard to shoot. All of these smaller guns are harder to shoot, but this one has a double action trigger, making it a little bit harder to shoot, and it just takes a little bit more practice to get good with this thing. Now, I'm all about second chances, but this is one I just cannot get behind. I mean, it was a failure that would not allow me to use this gun, and I hate knowing that there's guns out there like this that can fail so quickly. And let me just say, this can happen to any manufacturer, okay? But generally speaking, when you look at your M&Ps, when you look at your Glocks, when you look at the Walther PPSM2, your original shields, there are a lot of good budget guns out there that are definitely way more reliable than something like this. And so for that reason alone, I regret buying it, and I never recommend this because I don't know what you're going to get. I don't know if you're going to get a good one. Maybe you get one like I did. Maybe you get one that lasts 10,000 rounds and you never have to do anything with it. But regardless, time you get these guns that have all these different colors, and they're just there for kind of appeal. First of all, I don't like all the different colors. I think it looks kind of cheesy, but I understand why they do it because, again, it has that kind of appeal, especially to women maybe that don't know any better, but they see that gun as cute. Maybe their husband doesn't know any better. All I'm saying is do a little bit of research. You can find some really good budget guns out there, but the Sky CPX2 is not one I recommend. Now here's another one, the Diamondback AM2. I really need to take this gun out and review it all over again because I've had this gun for several years now. And at the time when this came out, it was actually a pretty decent budget option, at least compared to your M&Ps and your Glocks. And Diamondback has come out with some cool stuff, I will admit that. And I honestly like them as a company. I like some of the people up there too. But this one, I never felt so inadequate with a gun in my life. Now, you could say that's my issue, and I totally understand. But I've made a couple of videos on this, and, if you've ever heard the term, you can't hit a broadside of a barn, well, I'm a pretty decent pistol shooter. I'm not the best out there, and I definitely ain't the worst. But at the same time, I felt so inconsistent with this gun. It's one of 2 guns that I've thrown in my life, and it's because of a sex shot that I still even have this thing, because otherwise it would have been, I don't know, buried under deer crap by now for, I don't know. Anyways, the sights on here, it's got the U-notch style sights. They haven't updated this gun in several years from what I can tell. It's still not optics ready, or they don't have an optics ready version. The magazine release is tucked into the frame, and so there's no chance of really inadvertently hitting this magazine release, that's for sure. I just wish it was protruded a little more, a little bit easier to get to. The trigger is not great. It actually has a pretty defined wall, and it just stacks up. It's got an overstop travel. It breaks. The grip texturing is nice, though. But the guns like this have kind of gone the way of the dodo bird in a way, because there's so many options. We'll take the Shield Plus, for example, that are just thinner, a little bit lighter, and they are much better shooting guns. You even have guns like the X Macro. I think this one is 22 ounces unloaded with the 12-round mag. It's 4.6 inches high. With the 17-round mag this thing comes with, it's like 5.6 inches high. Well, I can have a 17-round X Macro that's like, I don't know, 5.2 inches, with the standard magazine. So this gun really needs an update. Better trigger, better sights, optics ready, and some of the things that work really well in this gun, if they stick with that, they may end up having a winner. But from what I've seen, they haven't updated it. And like I said, it's just kind of outdated, and I don't trust this gun, not one single bit, to be able to hit the target even when I'm just talking about self-defense purposes, not plugging the same hole over and over and over, just being able to hit the target at a reasonable distance with this gun. I just don't trust myself being able to do it. But bringing this one out of the safe, doing this video, it is one I should go back and just look at it again, because I'm definitely willing to do that, and I might be totally wrong, but as it stands over the past couple years, there's just better guns out there that are thinner, lighter, better capacity, and shoot way better than the AM2. Here's one that may surprise some of you, the X Macro from Sig. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things I really like on this gun. Rocking the new Romeo X, front and rear slide serrations, the best set of pistol sights on any handgun, any pistol, period. One of the best feeling guns in the hand, and it's 17 rounds with basically a full-size grip, but it's thin like your Micro 9s. It just does a really nice job. So you may be thinking, well, what do you hate about it? Well, after doing my last video where I took the comp version, the tac ops, and the base, I think the base is a better value and it shoots just as good as the comp. Now the comp does offer a little bit less muzzle rise, maybe a little less felt recoil, but more significantly a little less muzzle rise in the gun. But once you learn how to shoot the base, not only do you have a gun that's still optics ready, still has the same set of X-ray day-night sights, same grip module with the Picatinny rail. This is a gun that you could potentially carry outside the waistband. You could use it for home defense. You could even train somebody how to use this gun. It really is a jack of all trades type of firearm. Now, it's not the best for inside the waistband carry, but that's just my opinion. Has removable back straps, and you save $150 to $200 compared to the X Macro comp. I just don't know that this offers enough to justify that cost. Now, Sig sent me these guns, so I didn't buy these, but if I were to buy these, I wouldn't buy the comp again. I would definitely buy the base, stick with that, and then if you want to turn this into a tac ops, you absolutely can do that down the line, but save yourself some money up front and just go with the base model. Now, Glock is one of the most copied guns in the world, and for good reason. They're relatively inexpensive, and for the most part, they are super reliable, and they have been for many years. And there's some companies out there that go to the extreme. They will take what's good in Glock and then totally customize it, like the Zev Hypercomp. There's other companies like Shadow Systems that will take the base version of a Glock, upgrade what needs to be done, and then, keep the cost as low as possible. Now, the CR920 is one of those guns. It's got some really nice features. They're about $700-800 depending on the version you go with, at least for the optics ready version, but overall, it's a decent gun. Got really nice aggressive serrations in the front and rear. It's got the blacked out rear sight. It's got the nice green yellowish dot in the front with the tritium insert. 10-round mags. It's got the Gen 4 style magazine release that's serrated as well, and the sizing of the gun is pretty decent. So when I compare this gun to a Glock 43X, it's a little bit shorter and it's a little bit easier to carry, and it is a nicer gun all the way around. They've done some really nice things with the battery arms, but does that translate at the range or translate to a better shooting gun? Basically, if I buy a 43X that's $500 and I do some really slight modifications, I feel like I can get a better shooting gun than what they're charging here that's $700 or $800. So I don't know that the modifications that they made from the factory translate to necessarily a better gun. And I think if they would have spent a little bit more time perfecting that trigger and a little less work on the slide, they would have had maybe a better option here. Because like I said, it does have some nice features. And it's not a gun that I necessarily hate at all. I just don't find it to be that much better than a standard Glock. And this is kind of one that I've changed my mind on. I really liked it in the initial review, and as I've spent more time with it, I just don't know that it does anything better, especially considering how much more it is than your standard Glock 43X, like I said. And the last gun we'll talk about is the Keltech P15. Now, what they try to deliver here is a really light and concealable 12-round carry gun. But one thing I noticed when I bought this thing, first of all, it wasn't exactly cheap. They do give you a decent set of fiber optic sights. It's not optics ready as of the date of this video, even though it looks like it should be. And it's got a decent trigger pull, at least when you dry fire it. But at the range, again, this is another one that when I take it out there, I'm like, you know, this thing is so light and so snappy. And it's not exactly a budget carry gun either. What is it really doing better than some of the other guns? It also has a grip safety, which I'm not totally a fan of. It's not going to keep me away from it. I mean, one of my favorite carry guns, which is the Equalizer, has a grip safety too. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's not something that's going to detract me away from the gun. There's just too many things about this that I'm really not a fan of. I think a little bit more weight, I think a little less aggressive in the grip texturing, and just making it a little bit more shootable would have been better. But Keltech has done this with their PT series for a long time now. They make them super light, super concealable, but that doesn't always translate to a gun that you're going to feel confident with if you ever have to use it in self-defense. And that's just kind of how I feel about this one. So those are 7 pistols that I regret buying. Now, again, I keep these guns around for videos like this. Sometimes I'll re-review them and all of that. But I want to hear about maybe my list. Maybe you like the list, maybe you hate the list, maybe you want to give me your own list of guns that you regret buying. Leave those things down below. If you like what I do and you want to support us further, you can join the channel or join us on Patreon. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.